What would you do if the very person meant to protect justice mocked a man who had once fought for her freedom? Stay with me till the end, because this story will leave you thinking twice about judging people by appearances, and if it touches your heart, don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more stories like this one. The courtroom was cold and crowded that morning, a mixture of whispers and shuffling feet echoing against the high walls. At the center sat a man named Daniel Hayes, a single father, a veteran who had sacrificed more than most could imagine. His clothes were simple, his posture humble, his face marked by years of battles both on the field and at home. To those watching, he was just another struggling parent fighting for custody of his little girl. But to him, this was the most important battle of his life. His daughter, Emily, was everything. After losing his wife to illness, she was the reason he got out of bed each morning. The judge presiding over his case was known for her sharp tongue and no-nonsense demeanor. Judge Caroline Mercer, a woman with years of experience, prided herself on sniffing out weakness. And when Daniel fumbled nervously with his papers, his hands trembling as he tried to speak, she smirked. "Mr. Hayes," she said with a voice dripping with condescension, "this is a courtroom, not story time. If you can't even present your case properly, how do you expect to take care of a child?" Laughter rippled softly through the room, and Daniel's ears burned red. Emily, sitting quietly behind him, gripped the edge of her chair, her big eyes filling with tears as she watched her father being humiliated. Daniel swallowed hard. Years ago, he had commanded troops in war zones, but here, under the cold gaze of a judge, he felt powerless. Memories of the battlefield, the chaos, the fear, the loss, flashed in his mind. He had faced enemy fire, yet this woman's words pierced him deeper than any bullet. For a moment, he almost gave up. Almost. But then he glanced back at Emily. Her small, trembling smile reminded him of the promise he'd made at his wife's grave. "I will never let her grow up without love, without safety." The opposing attorney rose, smug and polished, throwing legal jargon around like knives. "Your Honor," he said smoothly, "Mr. Hayes clearly lacks the means, the stability, and the skill to raise his daughter. It would be in her best interest to live with her mother's wealthy relatives, who can provide a far better environment." Daniel lowered his eyes. Everyone seemed to believe he was nothing more than a broken soldier. But they didn't know the truth. With a steady breath, he stood. Something shifted in his voice, a strength and clarity no one expected. "Your Honor," he began, this time not with fear, but with conviction, "I know I may not look like much. But do not mistake humility for weakness." He reached into his folder and pulled out documents that had been buried in dust for years, case files, legal briefs, certificates. He placed them on the table. "Before I put on this uniform, before I served my country, I was an attorney. Not just any attorney, but one who once stood in courtrooms just like this and fought for justice. I left it behind to serve, and yes, life has beaten me down since then. But don't you dare think I don't know the law, or my rights, or my daughter's." The courtroom fell silent. Judge Mercer froze, her smirk fading as she scanned the documents. It was true. He had once been a brilliant legal mind, respected by peers and feared by opponents. Now he stood there, not as a broken man, but as a father reclaiming his strength. His voice grew firmer, sharper, more commanding with every word. He dismantled the opposing counsel's arguments with precision, quoting statutes, exposing contradictions, weaving a case so strong that even the most seasoned lawyer would struggle to counter. By the time he finished, the entire room was stunned. Emily, her eyes wide with pride, whispered softly, "That's my dad." The judge sat back in silence, her face pale. For the first time in years, she felt ashamed. She had mocked a man who had carried more weight than she could ever imagine, who had buried his pain just to raise his child. Finally, she cleared her throat. "Mr. Hayes," she said, softer this time, "the court owes you an apology." Turning to the opposing side, she continued, "Custody will remain with the father." Case dismissed. Emily ran to him, hugging his waist so tightly he could barely breathe. Tears rolled down Daniel's cheeks as he lifted her up. For the first time in years, he felt victorious, not because he had won a case, but because he had proved to his daughter that no matter how the world sees you, your truth and your love will always shine through. As they walked out of the courtroom, heads turned not in pity but in respect. Daniel had reminded them all of a lesson too easily forgotten. Never underestimate the quiet strength of a parent's love, nor the hidden battles of those who appear ordinary. And if this story touched your heart, if it reminded you to never judge someone without knowing their journey, then make sure to like this video and subscribe to our channel for more stories that inspire and uplift. Because sometimes, the greatest victories are not won on battlefields, but in courtrooms, in homes, and in the hearts of those we love.